Hey, real men, we're here. We're going to be talking in just a moment with Trevor Bayne, the youngest guy to ever win the Daytona 500. He drove for the Wood brothers. We're excited to hear his real man story and how he walks for Christ, being a part of NASCAR.
You know, growing up, I grew up in a Christian family that kind of went to church and went through the motions, but it was more of a lukewarm, thing. And so for me, I guess I was about 13 years old. It was in 2005 in September. I went to revival with one of my friends, and I was there at his church. And that was the first time that God really started working on my emotions and just showing me kind of who He is and the love that He had and how compassionate He was. And that's one of the first times that I actually saw Him and experienced, and not just, I'm sure I had other experiences and just kind of blew them off, but this was the first time that I knew that there was no way that there was anything but God doing this to me. And I went home and I was crying, and my mom comes in there and we start praying together, and that's the day when I said I'm giving my life to Christ to do whatever it is. And I didn't know what that would look like, and I was still pretty much a baby in knowledge and all that kind of stuff. And at that time I was 13. The next year, or actually 2 years later, I moved to North Carolina on my own. I moved down there to drive for Dell Earnhardt Incorporated, moved out by myself, and so there's a lot of temptation, a lot of things that happen with that, and it's really easy that if you're not intentional about prayer, not intentional about reading, to kind of fall away. It's easy to slip a little bit, and so I wasn't. It wasn't like I was intentionally saying I don't want God today, or I don't want to experience Him, or I don't want to pray or read. I just wasn't intentional in saying I'm going to do those things. And so I was driving for DEI, and I was like, all right, I got this. I'm a race car driver. I can handle it. I'm good enough to do this. And gradually, I started to believe myself more and more that I was capable of doing it. And in 2008, that all came to an end. God said, all right, I want to see how good you really are without me then. So we lost all our sponsorship. There was nothing for the next year. I've been racing 42 weekends out of the year for pretty much my whole life. And for the first time, I had to sit still for 6 months. And during that time, I met somebody by the name of Brent Weaver. He was a great guy. I didn't know he was a Christian until I met him, and he was a manager of a race team that I was talking to about driving for. And we started talking, and the first thing he does before we eat, he's like, man, you mind if I pray real quick? And I was like, all right, I hadn't heard that in a long time. I just haven't heard that since I've been here for the last couple of years. And it's kind of a tough community, and we're always on the go and all that. So him just saying that kind of sparked it back in my head, like, man, maybe that's what I'm missing. And we started hanging out, we started wakeboarding together, and I could just see his life look different. I didn't know how to describe it or what it was at first, but then I just saw the peace that he had and the joy that he had, and he just handled things the right way. He was always smiling, and later I found out exactly what that was. I mean, it was just Christ in his life. He had had a radical change in his life, and I wanted that, and I wanted to experience that again. I knew what it felt like, but I didn't know it to its fullest, and so I just really started being intentional, like I said, in prayer and in everything. And within like 3 weeks, I'm back in a race car. God just aligns everything. He puts me with a team. After 6 months of nothing, within 3 weeks of me saying, man, I know what I'm missing. I can't do this on my own. I need God. I need Jesus. I need all this. I need Him to be a part of it, or it's no good anyways. Even if I was successful, it wouldn't matter. And as soon as that happened, it just all turned around, and it's been a crazy road ever since then. But God is able when you surrender finally, and you just say, all right, I can't do this on my own, and even if I do what I want to do, if it's not His will, I don't want it anyway.
Right.
There's some great guys that are in my life, and one of the ones that I've been hanging out with all weekend is Michael McDowell. He's another driver. He's driving for Joe Gibbs Racing this weekend, but man, he knows what I go through because he's another driver, but he just lives it. He lives a different life. We do ministry stuff at the racetrack. Sometimes we'll go out and do some homeless things, and just go find homeless people, whatever cities we're in, and bring food or Bibles or whatever. And we go down to Monterrey, Mexico every now and then, and there's a guy there by the name of Lonnie Klaus that used to be with MRO, which is our ad track chapel stuff, and he's a light too. I mean, all these guys are just people that you can see a difference in their life. Brent Weaver, that guy I was talking about earlier, he's going to run my business stuff now. So I try to surround myself, and God surrounded me with those people. You know, when you make that commitment, it's like all the things start coming together, and He'll start putting people in your lives that really strengthen you.
What is it that those guys do that really challenge you to be accountable and to walk the walk that Christ wants you to walk?
Well, their perspective is just different in the world. You know, you go through things sometimes and you want to do the worldly thing and just get mad at somebody, or, you know, somebody, I don't know, tries to, I mean, just an example, somebody tries to take money from you or whatever it is, not steal it, but, you know, it's just a lot of things we go through with business and the racing industry, and they just go at it with a totally different perspective and pray through things and just, you know, man, they're just so humble and have that peace. But as far as accountability, I mean, we'll call each other out, not in a bad way, but in a helpful way. We always want to just talk to each other about it. We do Bible studies together, and really just make sure we're reading and just studying and doing all those things. But they're just great to have around.
That's awesome. Is there any kind of encouragement that you'd be willing to give a group of about 300 guys in Des Moines in the middle of the winter just to live their faith for Christ and to try to be a real man for Christ? Is there anything you'd want to challenge those guys today with?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, I find myself stressing out sometimes and trying to take control of things, but it just goes back to letting go of control and just saying whatever His will is, I'm going to be content with it, even if it's not what my desires are at the time. Just pray that He'll align your desires with His, and then eventually it won't be such a struggle, you know, that you'll be able to let Him have control and you won't have to fight it so much.